close to the end. It gets very messy at the end.
You need to finish this. You need to break the cycle. Your children deserve to go home.
What happens next?
There is no plan B.
Everyone here is gonna die.
We can't just give up.
All right, then tell me how to move forward.
There's nowhere for you to hide. Now I light the match, and I watch it burn.
What's going on, everybody? Your boy is back with another one, and this time we are talking about the biggest episode of the entire season. Season 4 of From is about to end, and the trailer for episode 10 just dropped, and let me tell you, there is a lot going on in this short clip that we need to break down piece by piece. This is the finale. This is the episode where Boyd's quest to lead these residents home finally reaches a crossroads. And from what the synopsis is telling us, nothing is going to be the same after this. The title of this episode is If a Tree Falls in the Forest. And if you know this show, you already know that title is not just a random phrase. It means something. And I am going to break down exactly what I think it means later in this video. We are talking about a sky filled with red flashes. We are talking about Ellis, Fatima, Boyd, and Randall standing outside the clinic, looking up like something terrible is about to happen. And we are talking about Jade and Tabitha still stuck down in those tunnels with the bones they came for. Do these talismans actually work or not? Is Sophia's sabotage about to get someone killed? And with a season 5 already confirmed as the true final season, does that mean somebody we love does not make it out of this finale alive? I am going to walk you through everything I am seeing in this trailer and tell you exactly what I think is coming. Before we get into it, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you are new here, go ahead and subscribe because we are doing breakdowns like this every single week. Let's get into it. Before we even get into the trailer itself, we need to talk about how we got to this point, because episode 9 set up almost everything that is about to explode in this finale. Boyd finally agreed that digging up the old children's bones was the only real shot the residents had at getting out of this town. That is a massive decision for him, because Boyd has spent this entire show being the guy who is careful, who weighs every option, who does not jump into anything without thinking it through. So the fact that he finally signed off on this plan tells you how desperate things have gotten. Tabitha is the one who figured out, after messing around with her talisman, that she and Jade were the ones who needed to be the pair going down into that graveyard to grab those bones. Not Boyd. Not Victor. Specifically, Tabitha and Jade. And that detail matters a lot heading into this finale, because the show does not usually pair up characters like that without a reason. Now here is where things get messy. The original plan involved pulling up the bottle tree because that tree happens to be sitting right above the graveyard, and if they can get it out of the ground, that opens up a way for Jade and Tabitha to climb straight out instead of having to crawl all the way back through those tunnels again. Victor was against this. He had just gotten a visit from the boy in white, and whatever that visit was about, it made him push back hard on the plan to uproot that tree. But here's the problem. There was no time left to come up with a different plan, so instead of listening to him, they detained Victor. Think about that for a second. The one person raising red flags about this exact plan got locked up instead of heard out. That is the kind of decision that always comes back to bite people in this show, and I have a feeling we are about to see exactly why Victor's warning mattered. So the plan moves forward anyway. Jade and Tabitha head into the tunnels to dig up the bones, and they do it the only way they can, which is by securing the site with a tarp and a talisman, hoping that combination is enough to keep the creatures away while they dig. And remember, the digging itself is what wakes those creatures up in the first place. So the second they start pulling those bones out of the ground, the clock is already ticking. Meanwhile, up on the surface, Boyd is leading a group trying to get that bottle tree pulled up and get a rope ladder down into the hole, so Jade and Tabitha have a way out. Sounds simple enough, right? Except that rope ladder was sabotaged by Sophia before any of this even started. So the people down in those tunnels are depending on a way out that may not actually work when they need it most. And on top of all of that, we get this huge reveal with Elgin and an old Polaroid picture. Elgin finds this photo, and it features a woman who looks just like Sophia. He shows it to her, thinking she is going to be amazed at the resemblance, like maybe it is her grandmother or some relative from way back. Instead, Sophia just calmly accepts that the woman in that photo actually is her. No shock, no confusion, she just owns it, which means this is not Sophia's first time running this exact playbook on this town. She has done this before. Maybe more than once. And if that is true, then everything she has been doing this entire season, every single one of her mind games, has been part of something she has clearly perfected over time, possibly over multiple cycles of this exact same nightmare repeating itself. So now you understand why this finale is being built up the way it is. We have got Jade and Tabitha trapped underground with bones they desperately need, a sabotaged rescue plan they do not know is sabotaged, a detained Victor who tried to warn everyone, and a Sophia who we now know has lived through this exact horror show more than once, and clearly has her own plan running underneath everyone else's plan. That is the foundation this finale trailer is building on top of. And once you understand all of that, every single shot in this teaser is going to hit a lot harder. Alright, let's actually get into the trailer itself, because once you watch this thing knowing everything we just talked about, it changes how you read every single frame. The very first thing we see is Ellis, Fatima, Boyd, and Randall standing outside the clinic, and they are all looking straight up at the sky. And this sky is not normal. It is filled with these bright red flashes, almost like lightning, but the color is all wrong for anything natural. Now, if you have watched this show as long as I have, you know the weather in this town has never just been weather. Every time something major is about to happen, the sky reacts to it first. So the fact that we are opening on 4 major characters frozen in place, staring up at red flashes tearing across the sky, tells me something massive is happening that none of them can control. And honestly, none of them probably even understand what they are looking at yet. What I find interesting here is the specific grouping of characters in this shot. Ellis, Fatima, Boyd, and Randall. Not Jim, not Julie, not Donna. This specific combination standing together outside the clinic tells me this finale is splitting its attention between 2 locations at once. You have got this group on the surface dealing with whatever is happening in that sky, and you have got Jade and Tabitha still underground dealing with whatever is waiting for them down there. And those 2 storylines are going to be cutting back and forth throughout this entire episode, building towards some kind of collision point where both groups end up needing each other at the exact same moment. Now let's talk about that sky a little more, because I do not think those red flashes are random. We know this town has been building towards some kind of breaking point all season, and a sky that is lighting up like that, right as the residents are trying to pull off the biggest escape attempt they have ever attempted, feels like the town itself is reacting to what they are doing. Almost like whatever controls this place knows exactly what Boyd and the others are trying to pull off, and it is not happy about it. We have seen this town fight back before when people get too close to actually leaving. So if that sky is the town's way of fighting back, then whatever is about to happen up there is connected directly to what Jade and Tabitha are doing underground with those bones. And then there is Boyd's expression in that shot. The synopsis tells us flat out that his quest to lead the residents home reaches a terrifying crossroads in this episode, and a crossroads means a choice. A real one. Not a small decision, but something that is going to define how the rest of this story plays out. Boyd has spent this entire series trying to hold this town together, while also trying to find a way out of it. And those 2 responsibilities have been pulling him in opposite directions for a long time now. If this episode forces him into a crossroads, that probably means he cannot keep doing both anymore. He is going to have to pick one. And if he picks wrong, or even if he picks right but it costs him something he was not expecting to lose, that is exactly the kind of moment that defines a finale. We also have to talk about what we are not seeing in this trailer, because that matters just as much as what we are seeing. We do not get a clear shot of Victor in this teaser. And remember, he is the one who got detained for raising concerns about uprooting that bottle tree. If his warning was right, and it usually is in this kind of story, then his absence from the trailer could mean he is sitting locked up somewhere, while the exact disaster he predicted starts unfolding around everyone else. That is the kind of dramatic irony this show loves to use. And I would not be surprised if Victor's storyline becomes one of the most important threads we have not fully seen the trailer for yet. Now let's get into the title of this episode, because I think this is the most important clue we have been given for this entire finale. If a tree falls in the forest is obviously pulling from that old saying about whether something makes a sound if nobody is around to hear it happen. And on the surface level, this connects directly to the literal bottle tree that the residents are trying to uproot to save Jade and Tabitha. That is the easy, obvious connection. And I do think the show wants us to make that connection first. But I think there is a much darker layer underneath that obvious connection. And here is my theory on it. This town exists completely cut off from the rest of the world. Nobody outside of this nightmare even knows these people exist anymore. So if something terrible happens to these residents in this finale, if people die, if the whole escape attempt collapses, who is actually around to witness it? Nobody. The real world has no idea any of this is even happening. So the title could be asking a much heavier question than just whether a literal tree falls. It could be asking whether any of this even matters to anyone outside this pocket universe, whether these people could disappear completely and the rest of the world would never even know to mourn them. That is the pessimistic read on this title, and I will be honest, that read scares me a little, because it suggests this finale could end in a really dark place for some of these characters. But there is an optimistic version of this theory too, and honestly, I think this version might be closer to what the writers are actually planning. What if the title is set up specifically to make us expect the worst? To make us believe these residents are doomed and the man in yellow is finally going to win this round. And then the show flips that expectation on its head. What if instead of everyone losing hope, those bones Jade and Tabitha risked everything to dig up actually become the thing that turns this entire fight around? What if the residents, against every single expectation the title is setting up, actually gain the upper hand for the first time in this whole season because of what is hidden in that graveyard? I lean toward believing we are going to get a finale that plays with both of these ideas at once. I think this episode is going to make us feel like there is genuinely no hope left. The kind of hopeless feeling where you are not sure anyone is walking out of this alive. And then somewhere in that darkness, those bones are going to do something nobody expects. Whether that means giving someone's soul a way out, or actually resurrecting something connected to those Ankui children, I think the answer is going to be more important than anyone watching this trailer realizes right now. The title is not just about a tree. It is about whether the sacrifice these people are making in this finale actually counts for something, or whether it just disappears into a forest where nobody is around to hear it happen. So, with all of that in mind, let me give you my actual predictions for how this finale plays out, because I think there is enough in this trailer and in everything we know from episode 9 to start putting the pieces together. First, I do not think Jade and Tabitha are both walking out of those tunnels untouched. The show has set up too much tension around that sabotaged rope ladder for it to just work fine when they need it. Something is going to go wrong with that escape route, and when it does, I think we are looking at a moment where one of them has to make a sacrifice to get the other one out safely. If I had to bet on who survives that moment, I would lean toward Tabitha making it out, simply because of how much unfinished story she still has connected to her family and to Julie. Jade has had a long and meaningful arc on this show, and a finale built around sacrifice is exactly the kind of moment that arc has been building toward. Second, I think Sophia's reveal about that old Polaroid is going to matter a lot more than just being a creepy detail. If she has lived through this town's nightmare before, possibly multiple times, then I think this finale shows us a moment where her experience actually backfires on her. She has been playing this game so many times that she has gotten arrogant about it, sabotaging that rope ladder without thinking anyone could outsmart a plan she has run before. I would not be surprised if her own confidence is what finally trips her up this season, especially if the bones Jade and Tabitha dug up turn out to be something she did not account for. Third, that red sky and that group standing outside the clinic. I think this is connected to whatever happens underground the moment those bones are fully removed from the graveyard. If pulling those bones out triggers some kind of reaction from the town itself, that would explain why the sky reacts the way it does right as we see Ellis, Fatima, Boyd, and Randall standing there looking up in shock. I think this is the moment the town fights back hardest, right when the residents finally have a real shot at winning. And finally, with Season 5 already confirmed as the true ending of this entire story, I do not think this finale is going to resolve everything. I think it is going to end on something genuinely devastating, a moment that leaves the residents with a small win mixed with a massive loss. Just enough hope to justify one more season, but not nearly enough closure to feel like this nightmare is anywhere close to over. That is usually how the best finales work, and From has never been a show that gives its characters an easy way out. So that is my full breakdown of this trailer. What do you think happens with those bones? Do you think Victor was right about that tree? And who do you think does not make it out of those tunnels alive? Drop your predictions in the comments because I want to see what everybody else is picking up on that I might have missed. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you for the next one once this finale actually drops.